Any American boy has a history in comics. I grew up reading them. My story's the same as you. I went through a period where I didn't, and then I got kids and I started to read comics to them.
From our point of view, I mean, Stephen King, he's the big fish coming into the small pond of his comics right now.
When I came into it, I didn't know what to expect because I think of Marvel as a publishing company and a successful one and a big one that has a pretty clear way of doing things. And I was surprised to come into the conference room and sit down with people, and there was this kind of give and take that I've seen described in books that talk about the old comic book business in the 50s, where people would get together and blue sky ideas and talk about this and that. I really respond to it. The thing with the Marvel deal is that where several people would ask me like this and that, and how much input did you have into this, or whose idea was that, and I'm like, it's a team effort. So when things go right, as it seems to be with this, everybody shares the credit, and if things go wrong, I don't have to take it on the chin. You get an idea, the idea is fun, and then when you're working on a project, particularly if it's a long project, Dark Tower was the longest, because it went on for years. You have days where you say, I can't believe they paid me to do this. And then I have other days where I'm saying to myself, they can't pay me enough to do this. So I've had both kind of days, but at the bottom, you say to yourself, look, I have this much lifespan here. It's a little life in the great scheme of things, and I choose to do this because this is what I'm good at. So if this is what I'm good at, I'm going to do the best job that I possibly can. And it's true, I'm more of an intuitive writer than a plan writer. I don't understand people who plot. I don't get plot at all. If you write a story like The Dark Tower, at some point you have to say, why am I spending all this time? And then I do it is I tell these stories because for some reason, for some period of time, they were important to me. So that you sit down and you say to yourself, what's this about? Why was this important to me? And then you start to organize the elements around the answers to those questions about why it's important. And in a sense, that's one of the things that excites me about the modern comic. At some point, Spider-Man stood up and became three-dimensional and started to cast a shadow because somebody started to say, why are we doing this? What is the point of these guys in tights and colored things and masks and a secret identity? And what does it do to a person's life to keep a secret, a long-term secret? Why do you want to do this and the rest of it, So those questions started to be reflected in the comics. And you see, that's when there started to be this whole sea change in the way the comics work. And it's a big deal. To me, it's a big deal. It's like if DC had come to me in the old days when they were doing these things and said, we want to adapt The Dark Tower or something, I would have said, go peddle your papers. I have no interest. But this is a different world.
Yeah, it is.
My feeling has always been, and this is probably superstitious, that stories are pre-existing things, that you were meant to dig this particular story out. So I think of it as like a fossil in the ground. And the other thing is like, you're always going to come up with a good story if you remain true to your characters.
Marvel, your universe.